Okay, it's me, Geordie Pete Redding, on another edition of Hollywood Balls. Now, my next guest is a legend of the pots and pans, well known for appearing on Ready, Steady, Cook and spawning a generation of TV celebrity chefs. Welcome to the show, Tony Tobin.
Hey, Pete, how you doing?
Very well, thanks. More importantly, how are we doing? How are you?
Yeah, we're okay. Strange times, but forever positive person that I am. We're still here. We've come out of, we're coming out of lockdown, I should say, in the UK here. So restaurants were allowed to open. I think we've done 3 weekends. And my restaurant is within a golf club. So it's on the first floor. So it's above the club, if you like, with amazing views. So at the moment, we're just opening on Fridays and Saturday evenings. For dinner in the fine dining, but we do look after the golf club. But again, at the moment, it's just kind of sandwiches during the day and stuff. People are still a little bit unsure whether they want to come and sit in a clubhouse amongst other people, and I get that. It's early days.
Yeah, sure it is. Now you say you're at the golf club at Ramsay. Do you get a chance to play at all?
I haven't. I've been there over a year. And I brought my clubs in, and I've got a little shed that they've allocated to me that I use like a storeroom to store dry things and stuff. And my clubs are in there and I haven't used them yet.
That's a sign of how busy you are. But I do know, a little bird tells me that you're definitely into your field archery. Can you expand on that a little bit for us?
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm trying to think how long I've been doing it now. About 4 or 5 years ago, an aging, let's call him an aging DJ, came in to my restaurant. James Whale, I don't know whether you remember James Whale.
Of course.
In the 80s, he was a big DJ, had his own TV show, the James Whale Show and stuff like that. And lovely guy. And we just got on really well. And he said, "Oh, you should come to the woods." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he said, "Every Sunday we meet at 7 o'clock in the morning and we shoot some arrows." And it's very similar to golf, where there's, in this particular woods that I go to in Oxshott in Surrey here, there's about 40 targets. So they're all different paintings on Hessian of animals attached to what they call a butt. And you start at number 1 and you have 3 arrows at each one, and you see if you can, score. There's like, obviously, if you hit the heart or the lungs and stuff like that, they're not real animals. Then you score a point. You get 3 goes, and then you move on to number 2. And so you do the course.
Wow.
Rather like golf. And so I started, and I borrowed a bow and someone's a couple of arrows. And I really, really got into it. And so much so that I think Robin Hood would probably employ me. I'm not bad at it, actually.
Good stuff. Well, that's the sporting stuff out of the way. We're going to get on about you to your career. Now, as ever, what I've noticed is when we speak to chefs like yourself and of your ilk, you started in the kitchen at 14. It seems to be prevalent that everyone starts at that young age. You're always washing pots and pans at 14, though. So how the hell do you know that, yes, this is my career, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, that's a really interesting, good question. I'm 55 now, so it was a long, long time ago, 13 and 14. But at that age, I just remember wanting a part-time job, wanting a bit of individuality of my own money, £3 a shift or whatever it was I was paid. I think it was about £3 a shift in those days. But it just means you got to spend your own money on, I don't know, sports cars or cards, not cars. Yeah. Whatever you were collecting at the time. And so I went into this kitchen of quite a famous pub in Warwickshire. I'm from Warwickshire, called the Butcher's Arms, owned by a Portuguese family. And they kind of took me under their wing. And, the head chef was Portuguese, and they used to speak Portuguese. I didn't speak Portuguese, but it was it always felt like they were shouting at each other. They weren't, they were just talking. But I got really involved, and I thought, oh, do you know what? I can do that. Let me do that for you, peeling the potatoes. And so as well as washing up, I started breadcrumbing the scampi, and I started getting more and more involved in helping out. And the chef said to me, "You should do this for a living." He said, "You're very talented at this." And I think it was that positiveness that I've got, and always wanted to get the job done really quickly and get it out of the way so I could get another job. Give me another job, give me another job. And that's really how it started. I was always cooking at home. From a very early age. 3 sisters, So just to keep out of their way, I'd spend time with my mum, who's Irish, would always be cooking in the kitchen, something, making soda bread. She used to make the soup on a Monday. She was always making cakes for my dad, who used to take a packed lunch into work. So to stay out of my sister's way, so they wouldn't put makeup on me and dress me up in women's clothes, I'd spend the hours in the kitchen with my mum, kind of baking and cooking. Yeah, so I think it's always been within me. But starting washing pots and pans, I thought, do you know what, this is I can really enjoy doing this. So this is what I'm going to do.
Great stuff.
And
Yeah,
the
exactly.
rest,
As they
yeah.
say, is history. Like many careers, studying goes hand in hand with the job. But in real-time kitchen experience, surely, there's no studying can prepare you for that hectic melting pot of, if you pardon the pun, of running the pass.
Yeah, that's true. And that's the most exciting part. So, during the day, like an athlete, a footballer, runner, whatever it is, you do all your prep during the week, you train in, and you get coached and stuff like that. That's me chopping, showing someone how to make a sauce and stuff like that. And then you have the final, you have the match, or you have your 100 meters final, or your 400 meters final, or your race. And for us, that's between 7 and 9 o'clock, and that's service time, or 12 and 2. Where it's eyes down, and it's you're concentrating on the game, on your game, mine, which is food, and it's no different. It's just the same. The more you prepare yourself, the better your results. So you can liken it to sport just like that. And the better chefs, the chefs that make it and get to the top, the ones that do the most prep.
That's a great analogy, actually, bringing it back to the game of sport. I suppose it is a sport, as you say. Now, you served under the legend that is Brian Turner, Capital Hotel, 1984. Now, Michelin star back in the day, but I've got to ask you, was Michelin star as widely known then, or is that now a phenomenon of, the rise of TV content, that people are more sort of au fait with a Michelin star?
Oh, so when I was working for Brian, Brian had a Michelin star in the kitchen at the Capitol, and he stuck me in this little bistro. It's called the Metro Wine Bar, which was next door to the Capitol, and stars are chefs' Oscars. So you imagine you get a Michelin star, it's like winning an Oscar. It's like an actor getting his Oscar. So it would be like lifting the cup at Wimbledon, or the FA Cup, trophy. So they weren't prevalent then. There just weren't as many restaurants around, I don't think. So I was of that breed where we're all derivatives. When I was at Brian's, I left Brian to work for Nico, who went on to be 2 and then 3-star Michelin. And I headed up his kitchens quite young, actually. But at the time, bubbling away alongside me there, Marco Pierre White, Gordon Ramsay. Gordon Ramsay was working for Marco Pierre White at the time. And so we're all kind of little derivatives, little branches of those amazing chefs that have just gone through and then opened restaurants, and then had protégés that open their own restaurants. And so the tree is expanding. So now it's everybody talks about Michelin stars. In those days, there weren't so many starred restaurants, because there weren't so many restaurants, if you like, or fine restaurants, fine dining restaurants. There were lots of chains and pubs. People would go to the pub to eat. You'd save up to go out to eat at Brian's or to Nico's or Marco's. Marco opened in the 80s, I think, mid 80s. He opened Harvey's, which was just down the road from Nico. So I'd left Brian's by that stage. But I had the time of my life working for Brian. Probably the nicest. I call him Dad now. Probably the nicest chef I've ever worked for. He's a lovely guy.
Absolutely brilliant. And when you say Nico, that one was in Battersea, right? Because I think I remember.
Yes.
I lived just about a 10-minute walk away from there. I remember it.
Oh, okay, me too. So I used to live in North Street, so that was kind of happened. And literally used to walk to work, walk down to Nico. So I started there with Nico. Just literally, my friend was working there, and I've been working with Brian, and he was in this. He like I say, he put me downstairs in the Metro, and because it was a one-man band down there. I even had a coffee machine in the little kitchenette that we had. So I'd made the coffees, and I'd done about 6 or 7 months. down there, and I was getting a bit fed up. And my friend was working at Nico's, so he said, "Well, just come and have a look at the food that we do." So I spent the morning there on my day off from the capital, and just loved the look of the food. And then basically just went back the next week, knocked on the door, asked to see Nico, and said, "Look, give me a job." So then I had to give Brian my my resignation. This is a lovely story. So when Brian was at the capital, there was it was like out in the car park at the back. It looked like a little garage, and that was the dry stores and chef's office. So that was Brian's office. We always called him chef, just out of respect. And so I'd written out my resignation, and so I knocked on the door, and because the doors was like, "Who is it?" And he used to call me Tobin, you tart. He used to call me. So I said, "Oh, it's Tony, chef." He said, "Oh, Tobin, you tart, come in. What's up?" So I went in and I said, "Look, chef, I've been asking you to move me up to the capital kitchen. You keep leaving me down in the metro, blah, blah, blah. And so I've come today to give you my letter of resignation." And he paused and he looked at me and he opened up and he ripped it up. And he said, "Wow, I'm not accepting this." And I said, "Okay, chef, but I kind of thought you might do that." So I made a copy. So I brought another one out of my back pocket. And I gave him this copy, to which he burst out laughing. And he said, "Where are you going?" And I said, "Actually, I'm going to go to Nico's." And that's when he softened and he said, "Look, you young chefs, you move about far too quickly." He said, "Of course, you're going to Nico's and I respect that. And I wish you all the best there." He said, "But get your roots in and stay somewhere." And I stayed at Nico's for nearly 6 years.
That's right. Yeah.
On recommendation and advice from him. So that was lovely. And like I say, the next time I bumped into Brian was on Ready Steady Cook, and I became one of the chefs on there. And it was weird at first, but he's such a lovely guy.
Absolutely brilliant. Speaking of Ready Steady Cook, leads me in nicely. I've got you must have an apron at home, but what I really want to know is, have the audience ever voted against you when you were deep down sure that you were on the winning side?
Yeah, that used to happen quite a lot. When you think you're really pleased of what you've done and you pulled all the stops out, and 20 minutes, it's 20 minutes. And it kind of, the show changed. The show really evolved. I was doing it for 14 years. So, from when I first started, pretty much you just do one dish. But if you're up against Warrell Thompson, he'd have the same amount of ingredients in his bag and he'd produce like 5 or 6 dishes. And you think, "Oh, hang on, how did he do that?" So it kind of put the pressure on everyone. So then we were trying to get as much out of the ingredients as we can. And it was a real competition. Yeah. In the chef's world, you wanted to beat the other. I was always red tomatoes. So, you always wanted to beat the green kitchen, the green pepper kitchen. So, it was a real challenge, but great fun. And yeah, there's times I thought, "That's in the bag, mate. I'll absolutely smash that." I look up and it's the sea of green. You think, "Blimey, did I say something? Where did I go wrong? Or was it in the name?" But sometimes, because we used to record, it was a recorded show. So we'd record 3 in the afternoon.
Right.
2 with the same audience. First 2 shows, same audience. Third show, new audience. So you'd have a little break between each show. So if I'm in on Wednesday and I'm doing show 1 and 2, right, the chances are, human nature, if they voted for me on the first show, they'd vote for the other chef on the second show. It doesn't matter what I've cooked. So the best bit was to do show 1 and 3 or 2 and 3, because you get 2 different audiences. And I think I did 16 wins on the trot once, because we used to have a little tally between the chefs.
I bet you did, yeah. Fantastic. I mean, speaking of being, cooking and obviously it's second nature to you, but I could think of nothing worse. I don't think I could do it on TV. I mean, there's so much to think about cooking in front of the cameras. Is there a knack to it?
I don't know whether there's a knack. It's the ability to talk. Not all chefs or not all people have it. I've seen auditions. I've seen some very famous, amazing chefs audition for Ready Steady Cook in the early days, because everybody wanted to get on, because it was a great way of advertising you got a restaurant on the telly. Although you couldn't advertise it, the fact you're on there, and then people Google you, find out where you are. And my restaurant was really busy when I did TV. And and it's still, I still do the occasional appearance with James Martin, stuff like that. It makes such a difference. People pick up the phone when they see you. But it was, I've seen some chefs audition, and it's the ability to talk and cook at the same time.
Yeah.
And not everyone can do it. I find it easy. Irish mother, I talk the hinds leg of a donkey. I've talked far too much, to be honest. Don't come up for air. But there is that. But if you don't, and I'd see these chefs and they say, well, yeah, I've rolled that in that mousse there, and now we're just going to pop that into the steam for 2 minutes. And then they don't talk for 2 minutes. That's not good television.
No.
Yeah. So it's the ability to be able to cook and train. I always imagine my audience watching, so I'm explaining it to them, to what I'm doing all the time. So I can talk continually and cook at the same time. And you notice that's Jamie Oliver's very good at it. Ainsley's master at it. He can talk. But that's the trick. The trick is to just don't stop talking. Just keep it interesting. I once got a letter from a guy, and it was a lovely letter. And he said, "Oh, dear Tony," he said, "I hope you don't mind me writing to you." He said, "I'm not one to watch cooking programs, but I was working from home the other morning, and you stopped me in my tracks and made me sit on the sofa. I was poaching an egg."
Brilliant.
I whisked the water, and so, why would you whisk water? Well, to create a vortex in the middle. So there, and if you get it, so the water's still moving around, you crack your egg and you drop it down into the middle of the water. The vortex keeps the egg completely round because the motion of the water going around the outside of the egg. And he was absolutely captured because I could talk. If I said to him, "You just drop the egg in,"
stick it in.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's the trick. There's no trick, but be very informative while you're cooking, and people will watch you.
Very interesting. You mentioned James Martin there. I've got to ask you: is there any other chef in the world that uses more butter than James Martin?
Maybe Brian Turner on a par. There's another Yorkshireman. Well, we're all trying to be so much more healthy now. I mean, I get it. It's, we use butter because it does make things taste, really, really nice. And I think, anything in moderation, eating wise. So I shouldn't really be promoting the fact of, stick loads of butter in it. And nor should James, but, you can be naughty a little bit of time. But yeah, no, probably no one uses as much butter as James. I went to see, he did a theatre tour last year, and I went to see, it was Brighton, his nearest one to me. And I always like supporting fellow chefs, so bought a ticket for me and Mrs. T. We went to see him on a Sunday night in a theatre in Brighton. And he does this, I think it was a Dover sole dish, fried in butter, but he made the butter, so he just put double cream into a mixing machine and whipped it until it turned into butter. Took this big handful of this butter out and just whacked it in his frying pan with his Dover sole, and I'm sure it tasted lovely once it had turned that nut brown colour and gets that nutty taste. I thought, only James Martin can use that amount of butter.
Well, I told family and friends that you were coming on the show, and of course they asked me, because I do quite fancy myself as a chef. So my next point is with trepidation. So curry's my thing, Tony, and I prep a base sauce, and I'm hugely proud of my famous Balti-inspired chicken. So we're going head to head, you and I. Have I got a chance, do you think, to beat you?
No chance. My wife would disagree, though, because she said to me, "Well, you don't really make curry." But I like using spices. Do I make curry? Not really. If we have a curry night, Katie makes that. She does a lovely curry. But I love spices, and I love roasting my own spices. As you get more flavour out than when you dry roast them, and then use your pestle and water to get all those lovely flavours out. But actually, I've not tasted your curry, but I'd probably make a rubbish curry as a sort of a posh chef, as my wife would say. Like the French,
got a chance.
You got a chance, absolutely.
Speaking of menu items, one of your famous guests that you used to dine with you was George Best. We will stay away from what Chris Kamara said on the TV. I'm still recovering from that myself.
Once he got through the audit.
When he came to yourself in the dining room, did he have a go-to favourite?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I met George on Ready Steady Cook, and he'd just moved into Surrey. So he's very close. And off the back of that, then used to come to the dining room. That was my restaurant then. It was called the Dining Room in Reigate. He used to come quite a lot, actually. And then he had his liver transplant.
Yeah.
And I relaunched the dining room. I got in bed with an investor, and we made the restaurant bigger and stuff like that in the good old days. And so George came to the relaunch, the opening, and it was his first outing after his liver transplant, and he didn't look very well, to be fair, and but he still made the effort, and bless him, he was lovely, and he came with his then wife, and so we had a nice evening with him. It was kind of a quiet evening, and I invited him back. No, I didn't invite him back. He then called me, so that must have been around October, November time, because then he then took a couple of 3 months off everything. He didn't go out to recover. And then it was around just before Valentine's night, and I get a call from him. I think it was Valentine's week. Valentine's night was on a Thursday. And he said to me, Tony, have you got a table on Valentine's night? I was like, George, you phoned me on Tuesday. Valentine's night is 2 days' time. You think I've got a table? And this was religiously, I work Valentine's night because that's my job to do. But this year, I'd said to my wife, I said, look, I've booked us in this fabulous restaurant on Valentine's night. And she's like, really, where? I went, it's ours. It's the only one I can guarantee a table for us. And I was going to take a night off from cooking and entertain my wife for the first time ever. I said, George, you can have my table. And he's like, no. And so he said, no, we'll join you if that's all right. So we sat together, and it was a tasting menu that I'd created. And I think this is the story that I told on James's show. And it was the first course, like a little amuse, like just to get the taste buds going, was a little fresh Bloody Mary that we made with this tiny little baby scallop, which we soaked in vodka overnight and then just seared. And so that became the Bloody Mary. Of course, George is like, he can't drink. He's not allowed to drink after his operation. He said, so I'd got one scallop put on a plate with his name on it, wrapped it up. This is George Best's, you know. But I was sitting next to him, and I was thinking, I said to him, George, I'm sweating here, hoping that you get the scallop that we put to the side for you. And he said, don't worry. He said, if you kill me tonight, he said, your restaurant will be so famous. You know, chef kills George Best with a drunken scallop.
What a story.
And anyway, we had a wonderful night, and he got the right scallop, and we didn't have a drink. In fact, I think the girls they went over to the bar, or upstairs. We had an upstairs bar, and they had a great time. Me and George just chatted the night away, and he was telling me all about his nightclubs that he used to own. He used to have a nightclub in America. Just absolutely lovely guy. Tragic that he's not with us.
Yeah, it is absolutely. Speaking of people who use the word legend, but a real footballing legend and a great guy to boot as well. Okay, my last sort of celebrity-based question before we round up, but was who's going to win a celebrity boxing bout between Gordon Ramsay and Marco Pierre White?
Oh, that's an interesting one. I think Gordon would win the verbal match. You know, they have these verbal matches for the actual fight. But I actually think Marco would knock him out on the first punch, because if you've ever met Marco White, he's huge. And I just remember seeing him. He was really good friends with Nico. So when he opened his first restaurant at Harvey's, I was at Nico's, and his stoves broke down for the first 3 nights of opening. So he used to come down to Nico's restaurant. And I just remember seeing this guy with the biggest hands I've ever seen. So on the back of that, I think that if Marco made contact with Gordon's face, the glove would be huge, and Gordon wouldn't stand a chance.
It's all over.
Yeah.
Whilst researching, I've got to say what really stood out for me, Tony, was I love the concept of the restaurant food from my place to yours. Can you tell us a little bit about the idea behind it?
Yeah, so that was created. We created that website, myself and my son, who's actually still with us. He lives in Wapping, and he's a civil servant. He looks like he's in HR for the Home Office, and not the Home Office, the Cabinet Office. So he was sent home, obviously, and he has a little bit of a liver issue. So I pulled him out of London 2 weeks before lockdown, and we created the website together. But obviously I couldn't, the clubhouse was closed, my restaurant was closed through the whole thing. So so I came up with this concept that, well, maybe people would like me to deliver. I was already looking after the older members who were shielding like my son. So I said, look, don't worry, I'll speak to you. I used to phone them on a Wednesday and I say, look, I'm going to bring you some food on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I started delivering. I thought, there's got to be a little market for that. And it was all right, actually. It kept me out of trouble at the weekends. And so I used to deliver fish and chips, or they could pick up fish and chips on a Friday, a fine dining meal on a Saturday. The Saturday night was quite fun. I probably do, 6 to 8 couples every Friday. And I used to do a deal with the meal, a choice of just 2 choices at each course, starter, main course, dessert with a bottle of wine. But I said to them, this is the only time you'll present my food on a plate. So I would present it in nice little containers that I managed to source. I said, but you have to put it on the plate. So what I want you to do is take a photograph of it for me and send it back to me. And then there'll be a competition. And the winner, after lockdown, will win all-inclusive for 4 in my restaurant and have a night out. So I still haven't chosen the winner yet, because there's quite a few very good presentations. There's some horrific presentations as well, but some very good ones. So that's kind of how it started. But I just like that ring. It was my son that said, well, from my home to yours, because it's got a really nice ring to it. And it was really successful. And then we did a Sunday roast, which we used to deliver as well.
It's a fantastic concept. And as I say, it leapt out. Now, finally, things are returning to what we would call a sort of a normal. Indeed, as I say, you've got a full section on the website on safety and what you're doing for the restaurant.
Yeah.
Do you think COVID has changed the way that we're going to dine out forever?
Absolutely. I think, yeah, I can't see people's mental attitude to going out changing that quickly. Even the people that come to us. So we've removed a lot of tables out of the restaurant. I invested in all these. Well, I had them made actually, these screens. So they're big frames. They're freestanding, but they're like 2 meters by 2 meters between the tables. I can move them around. So if I have to move my tables around, the screens go with them. So we've created, if you like, glass. They're glass as well, so they're easy to sanitize. But we've created almost booths. And off the back and by accident, because of COVID, really, people really like it.
Yeah. And
they feel safe. And they're saying, we can see that the investment you've made here, but you've made us feel really safe. And we've got sanitizer on it, a table on arrival, but also at each table. So they're, and it's almost like a little bit of, you feel like a bit of a school headmaster. Not, can you put your hand up, but they're explained to, look, we'll open the wine for you, but we'll put it on the table. You pour your own wine, because we step back, give you your space. If you need to use the toilet, can you let us know? Don't just get up and go, and we'll make sure. And then that allows us to sanitize it after everybody's used it. Each person's used it. So it's changing in that way, but they're respecting it and they're feeling a lot safe. I hope that it will change. That they find a cure or an injection that we can take. So moving forward, that we can get back to some sort of norm. But sometimes taking a long, hard look at yourself and your business isn't a bad thing. And for us, I think it's opened my eyes a little bit. And so hopefully we're better than we were.
Great stuff. It's been an absolute privilege and a pleasure talking to you, Tony. Ladies and gents of Hollywood Balls, the one and only Tony Tobin.
Thanks, Pete. It's been an absolute blast. Thank you.